I want you to stand in the middle of a miracle. And I want you to see what I've done, to witness what I'm doing, and I want you to tell the next generation and the generation that comes after, when they come against an obstacle, when they are living in the provision of what you prayed for, when they're experiencing the fruits of the hard work that you toiled, when you do that, you're able to say, let me tell you about what God did. Let me tell you about what God has done. Let me tell you all about when I felt that I was at the end and I was lost and I couldn't make it and it was going to be over. Let me tell you what God did. He performed a miracle. He crossed me over. He made a way. We once were slaves. We once were lost, but now I am found. I want to tell you that it's time to celebrate. This is a word for us as a church, but I truly believe it's a word for you. It's time to celebrate. Because here's what happens. I've witnessed this so many times. I'm in the church 30 years. I'm 35. Started going to church when I'm 5 years old. I've witnessed all types of people through all types of journeys. And as a pastor's kid and then as a pastor myself, seen so many people follow it. You know what one of the reasons why so many people follow it? Because they forgot their story. They forgot what God had done. They forgot to take a pause in the middle of the miracle and mark the moment. To take a piece, he says, take a stone from the Jordan River. To take a piece from that life, from that memory and say, I'll never forget what God did. Because when we forget, we become ungrateful. We begin living with a sense of apathy. Indifference. Oh, this is the way it's always been. No, it wasn't. You had to fight to get to where you are. God had to do great things in you just to keep you alive, just to get you to survive. When you look back over the last 5 years as us, not just as a church, us as a nation, us as a global community, all that we've gone through, and we go, oh yeah, but I'm looking at what's next. No, take a moment. Mark this moment. The 12th of March, 2023. Mark this moment. I don't know what it is that God tells you that you got to mark. You got to remember. You got to be reminded. You got to just take a snapshot, a mental snapshot in your heart to know, God, I'm going to mark this moment. As I move forward and I go through all different difficulties and all different trials and all different battles, I'm going to look back and say, no, God did provide. He did say. He did remind me. I'm going to mark this moment. And in this moment, Joshua 4, God presses pause. He presses pause before the Israelites are about to step into their promised land, to mark this moment as a memory for the rest of their lives. And here we are, thousands of years later, talking about this moment, because moments matter. Moments can define us. Moments, we can live a whole lifetime fighting and toiling ourselves, but when God can do in a moment what we could do in a lifetime. Here's the first thing to know. They mark the middle of the moment. The middle of the moment. Joshua 3. Joshua instructs the priests after receiving the word from God. He says that, I want you to carry the Ark of the Covenant, where the 2 tablet stones in which the 10 Commandments are written, in which God wrote them with his finger, and Moses on Mount Sinai. And he says, I want you to bring the Ark into the middle of the Jordan. So what happened, and you must remember, this Jordan River, it's in flood season, theologians believe, in this moment. So there's a massive flow coming down the river. And this is like 2 or 3 times the size of the River Liffey. You go into the center of Dublin and you see that 2 or 3 times the size, and the river is flowing down. He says that when you step into the river, it will begin to dry up just like I did with the Red Sea. And so the priests step in and they go, and what happens, it's like the river forms a wall that comes up, and they stand into the middle of the moment, the middle of the miracle, with the Ark of the Covenant representing the presence of God, and the people began to cross. 2 million people. Their families, husbands, wives, children. Can you imagine what that was like? Crossing that river, watching the wall of water, waiting for the moment. It might feel like I'm going to be drowned. I'm going to be consumed, just like it feels like for all of us when we're in that middle of the moment, wondering, when is this going to fall apart? When is this going to end? When is this going to end in crises? But no, they keep walking. I can't imagine what it was like for the priests just standing there nervously anticipating what's going to happen next. And then the Lord says to Joshua, I want you to go into the middle of the dry ground, choose 12 men representing 12 tribes, take a stone as a memorial and bring it with you to remind you to tell the story of what you had done. And Joshua 4 verse 5 and 6 says, go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. This is a moment that is literally marked in the middle of a miracle. He says, I want you to take these stones as a memorial to mark this moment, because it's a moment that is to be remembered. It is to celebrate a miraculous act that would never be forgotten. It was a moment that they could look back at all that they had suffered, all that they had endured, that they come out of slavery now into freedom. You see, this moment, it signifies and represents our moment of salvation. Our moment of salvation. That is the thing that defines us as Christians, is what Jesus Christ has done for us on the cross, and we place our faith in Him. We receive His salvation. We mark the moment of before Jesus and after Jesus. Before Jesus, my life was leading to death because of my sin. I lived in slavery, impurity. I lived as the evil one, was the head of the realms of the earth in which I lived under. Once I placed my faith in Jesus, I stepped into the promised land. I stepped into freedom. I'm no longer a captive. This moment that's marked represents our salvation. And if we're to be honest, we can forget our moment. If we're to be honest, we can forget what it was like before Jesus. What happens is we all become easily disorientated and distracted with life's demands that we forget what we've been delivered from. I want you to just to take a moment to remember that moment. The moment of salvation. The moment where everything changed. I gave my life to Jesus. And you know what? I know for many, especially for me, it wasn't this like complete transformation. It was gradual. I'll never forget the moment I gave my life to Jesus.